Kings Island in Mason, Ohio is currently my favorite amusement park I've been to, over other great places like Cedar Point and Islands of Adventure, and they also have a great coaster collection, so me being me has decided to rank them up. And also, I'd like to mention the Beast real quickly, because when I went in April, it was still being retracked, so that will not be on here. Though besides that, I have ridden every coaster at Kings Island. So without further ado, let's get into the list. I mean, of course, the Great Pumpkin Coaster is coming in last. I mean, it's the frickin' Great Pumpkin Coaster, for crying out loud. I mean, if you're like 3, then I guess it's a great ride, but anybody older than that, it's just... So I know this coaster gets a lot of hate in the community, and honestly, I can kinda see it. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of headbanging, though it was very shaky. If they could retract this, then I think it could be a fun little family inverted coaster. So the final coaster of the Kitty Trio, as I'll call it, is Woodstock Express, a fun little wooden coaster, though it is admittedly my least favorite wooden coaster I've ridden. Though I mean, it wasn't really a competition. What else was there, friggin' racer? But anyways, Woodstock Express is a fun little wooden coaster that can even deliver a little bit of airtime, though really it is nothing special, as there are clones of this ride throughout North America. Alright, finally, we're getting into the adult coasters. I don't know if Adventure Express can really be classified as an adult coaster, but whatever. Adventure Express is a solid aero mine train. It's very janky, but that's what I love about it. I love the jank. Believe the jank. The jank is real. It's good. Yeah. I remember on the ride, I was just screaming, janky aero transition 1, janky aero transition 2, janky aero transition 3. And also, I like the theming on the final lift hill. Though, really, the finale for this ride is very anticlimactic. Though overall, still solid mine train. This coaster, I can't really explain it. I mean, it can't really decide if it wants to be graceful or janky, intense or forceless, or, I don't know, actually. Though admittedly, I do not think the first helix makes you really gray out. I mean, I got kinda close, I guess, but not really. Yeah. But besides that, it's a solid family launch coaster. Probably one of my favorite family coasters, though compared to another family launch coaster, it could be so much better. Invertigo is one out of the 2 Vekoma boomerangs that I have ridden, and it is 1 out of 3 coasters to be under the track at Kings Island. Anyways, Invertigo is the only Invertigo model left in the US, and I actually think it is the most intense coaster at Kings Island, over Banshee, over friggin' Orion, even though Orion in most rows is forceless. But yeah, overall, I don't really have a lot to say about Invertigo, because really it's just a boomerang. But it's a solid ride that I consider to be semi-underrated. Ah yes, the Bat. The ride that everybody thought was gonna close a few weeks ago, but actually ended up just operating. But anyways, the Bat is the better of the 2 aero suspended coasters I've ridden, because, well, the other one is Iron Dragon. But still, the Bat, it honestly is a really good and fun ride. Is it underrated? I'd say so. And it is probably one of the best aerodynamics coasters I have ridden so far. Now it is time to talk about the coaster that saved the entire coaster industry. Because if we didn't have Racer, who knows what the coaster industry would have looked like. Anyways, Racer is a 1972 dueling wooden coaster manufactured by PTC. And I gotta say, if you ride in row 2, then Racer is actually a really great ride. If every row was like row 2, I think this would be number 5. But the thing is, the wheel seats are a lot rougher. They still offer the same airtime and laterals that row 2 has, just, you know, a lot rougher, which does hold it back a little bit for me, even if I do have a high tolerance for roughness. But even if you do ride in the wheel seat, Racer is still an awesome old wooden coaster. Starting off the top 5, we have Flight of Fear, a Premier Rides indoor spaghetti bowl coaster. Yeah, it is actually the last underrated ride on the list. And I gotta say, I think it's very underrated, as I just said. And I might have just been lucky, but I got a really great ride where the mid-course trim did not hit at all, so we just kind of coasted through, and that made for a much crazier second half than it probably would have been. Also, a lot of people have mentioned roughness as of recent, and I thought the ride was glass smooth. Really, the only complaint I have is the lights. You can see everything coming, basically defeating the purpose of having it indoors. But even with the lights off, I do not think it would be any higher, but Flight of Fear, take what you can get. By far the best coaster to be under the track at Kings Island, Banshee is a phenomenal B&M invert. Though not my favorite invert, it is quite the powerhouse. For one, that first drop in the back row is absolutely insane. You just get whipped over that thing. It is just crazy. And of course, the pretzel knot, I gotta mention that, because that is probably the most intense element on the ride, though it is not the most intense element that I've experienced on an invert. And of course, that final inline twist, even though there's only one inline twist, it is insane. Like, why is it even allowed for a B&M invert to have an element that delivers hang time? Why? That's just... But of course, I'm not complaining, because the hang time on that roll is phenomenal. But, yeah. It's a good invert, but not the best invert in Ohio. I have very mixed thoughts on Orion. On one hand, if you're in the back, Orion is awesome. If every row was like the back, it would easily be my number 1 B&M, and it would probably be in my top 10 coasters, and it would probably be number 2. But the thing is, every other row on the ride is forceless, even the second to back. Like, Orion is probably the most row-dependent coaster ever built. Like, if you thought Steel Vengeance was row-dependent, then you're right, but that is child's play compared to how row-dependent Orion is. But say you are riding in the back row, you get many good pops of airtime, such as on the Camelback, the Speed Hill, the Little Hill going into the final brake run, and of course the first drop, which is the only thing that all rows exceed in. And you also get some good positive G's on the Orion's belt and helix towards the end of the ride. Though, in every other row, Orion does literally nothing, or it feels like it does literally nothing, besides the first drop. I mean, there's not even a sense of speed on a Giga Coaster. Are you kidding me, B&M? Like, maybe that could be because this was originally for CGA, which, rip in peace, by the way. But also, I don't know. I really think it does have to do with the layout. Like I said, this would be number 2 if Orion was good in all rows. But the thing is, the number 2 coaster succeeds at being good in all rows, which is something that Orion fails to do. So that is why Orion is at number 3 on my list. Ah yes, Diamondback, the only Cedar Fair coaster to have theming on ride, but actually the theming does not exist because Diamondback does not have a rattle. I don't get why people says it does. Anyways, on to the layout. Basically, it's a first drop, airtime, more airtime. Just it's really just a bunch of airtime, a splashdown, like a turn, a helix. That's about it. I mean, I'm not trying to bash Diamondback. It's a great ride, but like any other B&M Hyper, it is very repetitive. And also, I did not try Diamondback in the front row or at night, which I think could make it a better ride, because from what I've found, Candymonium is actually better in the front than it is the back, and also because Diamondback's layout is just hidden mostly by trees, I think it would make a great night ride. And honestly, I think it was kind of close to the number 1 spot, but it had to be beaten out by Mystic Timbers, the greatest wooden coaster I've ever ridden, even better than Swamp Fox and Skyliner. I mean, it's not hard for a good coaster to beat Skyliner, but, you know, Mystic Timbers, take what you can get. Overall, it's my number 7 coaster, and here's why. There is just so much ejector airtime. I expected, I don't know, floater, though I got bombarded with small pops of ejector. Small but great, I gotta say. Very small, but very great. Also, this ride is glass smooth. Like, for a wooden coaster, it is, smooth. And also, I really like the theming. Yeah, the shed is kinda stupid, but I really like how the lift chain slows down. And also, the first drop, I feel like, is very underrated. It gives some good lateral snap in the back row. And of course, the many hills on the ride give phenomenal ejector airtime, as I mentioned. Though it is not the best ejector machine in Ohio. I'll talk about that ride in another video. But anyways, that's about gonna wrap it up for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy. Anyways, yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.